Have you ever just sat back and watched a kid perfectly mimic, say, the exact dance moves of a pop idol? Or maybe they suddenly strike this intense fighting stance of their favorite superhero. It's honestly kind of fascinating, right? Because as an observer, you instantly realize something. They definitely didn't learn those moves from a textbook. They learned them simply by watching. So in this explainer, we're going to dive straight into the profound science behind how kids actually learn by watching, and we're going to zero in on this incredibly powerful psychological mechanism called vicarious reinforcement. All right, let's take a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. Learning by watching, 2. The Bobo doll experiments, 3. Defining vicarious reinforcement, 4. The power of media models, and finally, 5. Shaping positive behaviors.
Kicking things off with Section 1, Learning by Watching.
So for the longest time, psychologists actually believed that we only learned through our own direct experiences, getting a reward or a punishment firsthand. But the concept of observational learning completely flipped that paradigm on its head. And that brings us to a massive question that really dominates our cultural conversation today. Do kids actually copy TV and video games? Right? I mean, whenever we see spikes in youth aggression, people are incredibly quick to point the finger squarely at violent screens. But we have to ask ourselves, is it just the sheer presence of violence on a screen that causes aggression? Or is there maybe a deeper cognitive mechanism at play dictating whether a child actually decides to copy what they see? Well, to figure that out, we really need to look at the science.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Bobo doll experiments, a look into Albert Bandura's foundational studies.
So back in the 1960s at Stanford University, Albert Bandura systematically evolved these really fascinating experiments over a few years. Let's look at the timeline. First, in 1961, he had kids watch an adult model physically and verbally abuse this inflatable Bobo doll, literally hitting it with a mallet and tossing it around the room. Then, moving to 1963, he expanded on this to see if kids would imitate filmed models or, get this, even cartoon cats doing the exact same thing. And finally, in 1965, he introduced consequences. He wanted to test what exactly happens when that adult model is either rewarded or punished for all that aggressive behavior. Now, if we look back at the results from that original 1961 study, there is a really stark contrast when it comes to gender. The setup was that after watching the aggressive adult, the kids were taken to a room with amazing toys. But then those toys were taken away to frustrate them. Finally, they were left alone in a room with the Bobo doll. The results? Honestly, they were crystal clear. Kids exposed to the aggressive adult were way more likely to get physically aggressive themselves. But check out this difference. Boys exhibited a massive 270 aggressive instances, compared to just 128 for girls, more than double. Bandura also noticed something else really interesting. Kids were most heavily influenced by models of their exact same sex. All right, moving right along to Section 3, Defining Vicarious Reinforcement. So what does this actually mean? Well, vicarious reinforcement fundamentally means that we learn through the positive or negative consequences of other people's actions. It turns out we don't just mindlessly copy every single thing we see. Instead, when a child watches someone else, a model, receive validation or praise or even a tangible reward for doing something, that child vicariously experiences that success. It's like they're getting the reward themselves. Because of that, they become highly motivated to imitate the behavior. Their developing brain is seamlessly connecting that observed action directly to a reward they want. To really prove this, in 1965, Bandura split the kids into two different groups. The first group watched an adult absolutely beat up the Bobo doll, but then that adult was warmly praised and handed candy. The second group watched the exact same aggressive behavior, but this time, the adult was severely reprimanded and, get this, actually hit with a rolled-up wooden golf club. No way, right? So what was the outcome? Well, the kids who saw the punishment displayed significantly less aggressive behavior when they were left alone with the doll. Here's the absolute crucial takeaway, though. They had absolutely learned the behavior. They knew exactly how to hit the doll, but that vicarious punishment completely suppressed their outward expression of it. Bandura actually formalized all of this into his social learning theory, and he broke it down into 4 really essential cognitive steps. Step 1 is attention. Obviously, the child has to actually pay attention to the model. Step 2 is retention. They have to remember the behavior they just saw. Step 3 is reproduction, meaning they need the physical and cognitive ability to copy it. But it's step 4 that is the ultimate gatekeeper here, motivation. The final decision to actually reproduce that behavior depends so heavily on the anticipated consequences. The kid is basically calculating, am I going to get candy for this, or am I going to get reprimanded? Let's apply this to today in Section 4,
the power of media models. Think about the screens in our living rooms right now. They are providing a non-stop, constant stream of what Bandura called symbolic models. And kids deeply identify with characters on TV and in video games. So imagine a child sees a media model, like, say, a superhero, resolve a huge conflict using extreme violence. But then immediately after that superhero receives praise or a medal or the adoration of the entire city. When that happens, vicarious reinforcement kicks into absolute overdrive. The child's brain is learning that violence equals validation. And that makes them highly motivated to adopt that exact character's behavior in real life just to secure that same praise. In a way, media acts as this hyper-effective delivery system for behavioral rewards. This ties perfectly into a really powerful quote from our source material, which notes that people's social constructions of reality depend heavily on what they see, hear, and read, rather than just what they experience directly. And honestly, this brilliantly explains why media holds such immense power over developing minds. If bad behavior is consistently rewarded on a screen, it can fundamentally alter a child's internal moral compass. It's literally dictating their future behavioral motivations by painting this super vivid picture of exactly what society supposedly praises and what it punishes.
And that brings us to our final part, Section 5, Shaping Positive Behaviors.
Now, here is the good news. This mechanism isn't just for learning bad habits. It is actually widely used for good in a field called entertainment education. Just think of well-crafted children's programming or those really positive family shows. The creators deliberately design relatable characters, and they structure the narrative so that when a character exhibits a positive social behavior, like sharing or showing empathy or practicing healthy habits, they are explicitly rewarded for it. This is using vicarious reinforcement for immense good. It actively teaches viewers healthy habits through that positive symbolic modeling we just talked about. And the best part is you can actually use this at home right now. It's a strategy that's especially effective for all children, including those with ADHD or autism who really benefit from structured social learning. So here's how you do it. Step 1, actively highlight positive examples. When you're watching TV together, just point it out. Say something like, "Wow, did you see how happy everyone was when he shared his toys?" Step 2, personalize the reinforcement. Try to make sure the child actually relates to the reward they're seeing. And step 3, combine it with direct reinforcement. Don't just praise your kid for observing the good behavior on screen, make sure to heavily praise them when they actively try to imitate it in real life too.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought to really ponder. The science here is just so clear. Our kids are not just casually watching screens, they are actively internalizing a complex system of rewards and punishments that heavily shape who they are becoming. So my question for you is this: how will you use this lens of vicarious reinforcement to actively guide and evaluate the media models in your own home? Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive. I really hope it empowers you to see the media your family consumes in a completely new light.